Welcome to this recorded demo of HighIQ's Accounts Payable Digital Worker. This video is in two parts. Part 1 will describe the component of the digital worker, and Part 2 will demonstrate an end-to-end flow. The email capability for the digital worker has been completely redesigned, keeping in mind the various use cases which businesses face. These include: Number 1, multiple email types such as Outlook or webmail. Number 2, can check the complete contact or just the domain of the supplier contact. We do this because we perform a check against the digital worker's managed contact information. If the contact is not available, the invoice is rejected and the information may be sent to the vendor onboarding team. Very important check because we want the digital worker to work for valid vendors in order to not only provide focus, but to avoid any email phishing attacks. Number 3, forwarded emails can be handled because there are many cases where the vendor sends the emails to the employees and then they are forwarded to the AP team. Number 4, knowing the subject of the invoice, whether it's an invoice, payment request, or statement reconciliation request, will ease the work for the digital worker. Number 5, the ability to handle multiple attachments is very critical. There can be situations where the vendor sends multiple invoices in one email. Let me now segue into the contact list. Managed contacts is a very important setup within the digital worker application. As you can see on the screen, we can set up the vendor contact and customer contact on the same setup page. The customer contacts are used for the order management digital worker, and the vendor contacts are used for the accounts payable digital worker. This is an extremely important setup, and therefore, in order to keep it in sync with the ERP system, we have a master data bot that extracts the vendor information from the ERP and updates the contact list on a nightly basis. Needless to say, as you have previously heard, if the contact does not exist, the digital worker will not proceed in processing the invoice. Additionally, this setup helps in greater straight-through processing because the vendor information is validated in step 1 itself. Next, I will be talking about the configurable error verbiage. As you can see on the screen, there are several errors handled in the entire end-to-end process, and notifications need to be sent out to both internal and external teams, depending on the type of error. We have created a configurable error verbiage setup so that every customer can customize it to their preferences. For the digital worker application itself, there is a role-based access control, where the multiple management roles can be created because not everyone should have access to all the information. The other master data which is important for the accounts payable digital worker includes the account aliases, distribution sets, and account strings, which are extremely important for the non-PO based invoices where account strings need to be recorded. The digital worker accounts maintains the data for account aliases, distribution sets, account strings, and keeps it in sync with the ERP. Now we'll be talking about the Happy Preprocessor, which is extremely critical for high straight-through processing. This preprocessor has been created by HighIQ, which handles vendor invoices, purchase orders, and contracts. Some of the important use cases handled by this preprocessor are containing multiple invoices and having an unnecessary blank page between them, multiple invoices one page, multiple invoices with variable number of pages, invoices having terms and conditions, invoices having summary invoice, and many more. I will now move into the invoice validation engine. This data is populated after the data is read by the IQ bot and before it is sent to the ERP. At this stage, there are 25 plus data validations performed between the invoice and PO information, both at the header and line level, including whether the PO is active, has funds, and is for the same vendor, etc. Last but not least, I want to talk about the built-in reporting capability that can be configured to your needs. This captures important metrics such as the number of invoices actioned today, total valid vendors, and average time for processing and approval, all of which can be depicted via multiple interactive graphs for easy and intuitive reporting. We call our accounts payable worker Oscar. Oscar is powered by Automation Anywhere's RPA as well as IQ bots along with HighIQ proprietary invoice workbench and is configurable to add your specific requirements. This demo starts with a vendor sending an email with the invoice to Oscar. As you can see, Oscar is monitoring its email. Whenever he receives the email, he will download the attachments and send it to the IQ bot. The IQ bot will start working on converting it into a CSV file, which is brought into HighIQ's validation engine. As you can see, the validation engine has found an error and has sent out an email to the human on the team to make corrections. Seen on the screen, the error is on line 1, containing a non-numeric value. The email contains a link, which takes the user directly to the invoice in question to make the correction. The user then logs into the application, looks for the error, and makes the correction. And since this is a non-PO based invoice, the invoice is sent to the cost center manager to make an approval and add the relevant accounting. Now, as you can see on the screen, the cost center manager has received an email notification to approve the relevant invoice and to add the accounting information. While doing this work, the digital worker maintains complete audit logs. All approved invoices are then ready for entry into the ERP system, which may be done via the front end of the ERP or via open interface tables. We have a connector built for Oracle R12 and SAP. Additional connectors may be built as needed. Once the invoice entry is completed, the invoice information is sent out to the vendor. Thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this recorded demo of HighIQ's Accounts Payable Digital Worker.